Hey everybody, it's Miss Sabrina. How are you all today? Boy, my hair is kind of all over the place today. It's funny when you have to record yourself, you have to see yourself. Hey, I have a book today that is actually brand new to me. It's a little different, certainly different than the Big Orange Splot. Different than a book that I usually am drawn to, but I love finding books that are new and, aren't necessarily the kind that I always pick up. So this one is called Moonfinder. And really, to be honest with you, the reason that the title attracted me today is that last night my son and I saw the moon and it was just a sliver, just like this. It was so pretty. I'm wondering if other people saw it. It almost looked like it was fake and painted in the sky. So I think when I saw this book, it reminded me of just last night when I saw the moon. And I thought, oh, I'm going to read this book to myself. And I really liked it. It's interesting. So Moonfinder, let's just jump right in. Moonfinder is written by Jay Ryan. Whoa. It was a beautiful evening. The sun had set, and David and his dad were gazing up at a glorious sunset. After a time, Dad asked, David, where's the moon? To figure out how to hold this again. Well, David looked all around, first one way, then another. There, Dad, there's the moon, David shouted as he spotted a tiny sliver. Can you see it? A tiny sliver of a crescent moon in the gathering twilight sky. That's great, David, his dad told him. You are a moon finder. And David replied, Yes, I am. Some of you will have to be moon finders tonight. The next evening was also very beautiful, and another brilliant orange sunset lit up the sky. Once again, Dad asked, David, where's the moon? David looked all around, first one way, then the other, and once again he shouted, there it is, Dad. There's the moon. You are a really good moon finder, David, exclaimed Dad. Can you tell that the moon is a little thicker and a little farther away from the setting sun than it was last night? And David replied, Yes, Dad, I sure can. So he's starting to notice the moon changes a little bit every single night. The next afternoon, David went to the store with his mom, his brother Ricky, and their neighbor Sarah. Sarah was looking up at the sky and said, Oh, look, the moon. David looked up and pointed, Wow, look, it is the moon. Mom looked all around, first one way and then the other, and finally she found the moon in the clear blue sky. I wonder how you kids found that little moon. And David replied, Well, Dad says I'm a really good moon finder, and so are you, Mom. Can you guys see the moon? There it is, a little closer to see. How many of you have ever seen the moon during the day? Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Well, over the next several days, each clear evening around sunset, David and his family tried to find the moon. Day by day, David could tell that each evening the moon was a little thicker and a little farther away from the setting sun. Now, this is an interesting art choice because do you see how they show the changing moon throughout? This would be like throughout a couple days. One evening, the moon was full. Wow, look at that, David exclaimed as he saw the big red moon rising just after sunset, way down here. Early the next evening, David went looking for the moon. He looked all around, first one way, then another, but he still couldn't find it. Dad, the moon is gone. Don't worry, David. We'll try again before bedtime. Well, before bed, Dad showed David the moon. See, David, there's the moon. It's rising only now. In the days that follow the appearance of a full moon, you can't see the moon at all until after sunset. David asked, Dad, why is the moon always in different places in the sky every night? Dad replied, Well, David, the moon's movements are like a big clock in the sky that helps us count the passing days. We can measure the passage of the month by watching the moon as it crosses the sky from night to night. Some of you I could see studying the moon and some stars. Oh boy. Dad explained to David, the moon moves around the earth in a big circle called an orbit. The moon takes a whole month to make one circle around the world. And so each day, the moon moves only a little bit from where it was the day before. But, Dad, why is the moon sometimes skinny and sometimes round? Dad replied, well, David, the moon is very far from the earth, way out in space. The sun is always shining on the moon so that one side is brightly lit and the other side is a dark shadow. Whenever we see the moon, we see only the part that the sun is shining on. Sometimes the moon is somewhere between the earth and the sun, and most of the moon's dark side is turned toward us. We can only see a sliver of the bright side, so the moon looks like a thin crescent. That's what I saw last night. As the moon moves farther away from the sun, we see more and more of its bright side, and the crescent moon grows thicker and thicker each day. When this happens, the moon is said to be waxing or increasing. After about a week, the moon is side by side with the earth, and now we can see half of the bright side, so it appears like a half moon. Over the next week, the moon grows thicker than a half moon, becoming gibbous, a word that means humped on one side. And finally, the moon is full when it's on the opposite side of the world from the sun. The moon looks round because the entire bright side is facing us, and the dark side is completely turned away. Wow, that was definitely a little science lesson. After the time of the full moon, the moon is waning or decreasing. The moon begins to get thinner again, going from gibbous to half moon and then to a crescent. Well, we can't see the moon in the evening, but sometimes we can see it in the morning. Each morning, the waning moon is a little thinner and a little closer to the rising sun. Really is kind of amazing. Do people live on the moon, Dad? No, David, nobody lives on the moon, but a long time ago, people flew to the moon in spaceships and walked on the moon. It was a very exciting time, but it's been a long time since anyone has gone back. Do you know that there are people that are planning to go back even right now? I just heard about it on the radio yesterday. Dad, will people ever go back to the moon again? I don't know, son. Maybe someday. I can tell you guys, I'm pretty sure people are planning on it right now. During the night, while David and his family slept, the moon rose and crossed the sky just as it does every night. Even though he didn't see it, David knew that the moon rises and sets each day, just like the sun, because of the daily rotation of the earth. In the morning, David woke up with the rising sun. Hey, Dad, let's go find the moon. There it is, Dad, just like you said. Dad replied, yes, David, you sure are a good moon finder. Every clear morning after that, David went outside to find the moon. As the days went by, David could tell that each morning the moon was a little thinner and a little closer to the rising sun. One morning, the moon was gone. David looked all around, first one way, then the other, but he still couldn't find it. Dad, the moon is gone. That's right, David, Dad replied. The moon is gone. It's the time of what is called a new moon, Dad explained, when it's at the end of its monthly cycle. Right now, the moon is between the sun and the earth, and we can't see it. In a few days, the moon will move away, and once again, we'll see a crescent moon in the evening sky right around sunset. Well, David waited and looked for the moon each evening, and finally, he found it. Dad, said David. There it is. There's the moon. Good job, David. Now you have a whole nother month to be a moon finder. So I love how this story both teaches us about the moon, and then, of course, the back has lots and lots of information if you ever wanted to read more about it. And also is just so beautiful in the artwork that shows the moon in the dark, the super dark night, even in the bright daytime. And when it explains why we don't find it every single day. So it's a lot of information there, but I hope that that was interesting to you guys. And I hope that maybe tonight, especially because it's so pretty out and clear, that you have a chance, maybe you can be a moon finder. All right, bye.